So I'm sure you are all tired of Zhuge Liang testing videos at this point, but I did have a lot of people ask me, Shappy, is he viable when he's unmaxed? Join me to find out. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode with your very own Shappy Gaming. Today, we are going to be breaking down a testing I did of Zhuge Liang. As you can see, I have since maxed him, which should give you a pretty good sign of how this video is going to go. And in this video, I tested out 5511 Zhuge Liang, as well as 5551 Zhuge Liang, as well as Max Zhuge Liang, because I really wanted to see how does this commander compare to some of the existing pairs that exist in game today that you could be using, and is he viable as a non-max commander? So I'm assuming you guys already know about all of the different skills that Zhuge Liang has. If you don't, be sure to check the video on the top right side of your screen now, where I went through and I broke down all of that. And while you're at it, if you haven't already, do hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner, and hit the bell so you get notified when new episodes come out. It helps me out a lot, and it helps you not miss all of our great content. So, I was really blown away by this testing. So here we go. I have all of the reports. I have a huge thank you to give to CMAP. I have no idea if that's the right way to pronounce it, but this guy helped me out. It was during MGE, and we went at it. So let's start with our baseline test. I had to see how my Nevsky Joan did against his March, because at the end of the day, I wanted this to be fair. This testing was a 1v1, and it was naked, because that's how I do all of the tests. Don't get too excited. So, here are the troop buffs that we can see off the bat. These troop buffs really didn't change throughout, so we both have KVK tech, but neither of us were in Alliance. And this is a Max Nevsky and a non-Max Joan. It is 5155, which is actually pretty good. So, in our first test, again, this was completely naked. I actually lost. I had 100k T4, he had 100k T4, and my guess is he just had higher KVK tech than I did. So, everything that we did after this was actually testing out to see how it went from there. So, the first march I tried was my Gilgamesh Nebu, which is actually my current archer march that I run in-game. And I was looking, personally, to see if I could get something better than these guys, because they kind of suck. In everything that I've been through, multiple KVKs, my Gilgamesh and Nebu always get targeted first and never do terribly well. And to no surprise, I lost terribly. Like, really bad. So we got 40,736 troops of his remaining, and here are the troop buffs for this time as well. As you can see, here's my archer attack, defense, and health, and this was a naked testing. No equipment, no city themes, none of that excitement. So next I said, okay, let's try my Zhuge Liang as he is today. And he was 5211. This is probably the closest you guys are going to get to a 5111. I wanted to do it because I thought it would be helpful for anyone who's like really free to play, low spender. But at the end of the day, you probably are going to want to take him a little bit further than this. But just for fun, here's how it shook out. It wasn't that much worse than my Gilgamesh. So as you can see, he had 47,000 troops remaining, and I had taken 59,000 power reduction, which is not great. In this particular duel, my Gilgamesh and Nibu actually did better. But let's see if it got any better. So I did this testing again now, and in this one, we actually maxed that second skill. And so now it's Max Nebu and 5511 Zhuge. And as you can see, at 5511, my Zhuge did about as good as my Gilgamesh did, which absolutely blew my mind. As you can see, 30,000 damage power dealt. And I lost again, but he only had 41,483 troops left, which, if we take a look at the Gilgamesh duel, is only not even 1,000 troops more, which to me is absolutely astonishing, taking a look at the fact that Gilgamesh is maxed and my Zhuge was not. Now, it gets even more exciting when I actually put Zhuge as primary. So as you can see, we've got 5511 Zhuge here, and you may notice something. 5511 Zhuge did better than my Gilgamesh Nebu. It still lost to Nevsky Joan, which I would actually expect. That makes total sense to me. But what you can't forget in this particular scenario is that both Zhuge and Nebu have an AoE, which is going to be really valuable when you're talking about being in a murder ball. So despite the fact that we lost to Nevsky Joan, I still think that this march would be totally viable in the field. So much so that it was more viable than my Gilgamesh. So if you are using Gilgamesh today or some other commanders, you could probably swap Zhuge out. And 5511 is probably where I'd say is the minimum to have Zhuge Liang. That said, my general recommendation, and I guess I'm skipping ahead a little bit, is going to be to max him. So I wanted to see how this shook out if I took it a step further. So now we're testing 5551 Zhuge, and it was absolutely ridiculous. It did almost twice as well as my Gilgamesh did, and to be honest, I would say this would do better than just about anything else, including Nebu YSG. Unfortunately, I don't have YSG Max, so I couldn't test it myself, but I am pretty convinced that Nebu Zhuge at 5551 is going to be better than Nebu YSG. So if you have YSG maxed, sorry, but I think that Zhuge is going to be the new archer meta for just about any secondary commander. So here we are now. I flipped it around and we did Zhuge primary, which actually surprised me because in our previous duel, Zhuge primary did better than Nebu primary. But in this particular instance, Zhuge primary did not do as well, which aligns with our testing that we did previously with Max. Again, if you haven't checked that out, top right side of your screen, I will link that for you guys. Big shout out to Duke for that one. But I was a little bit surprised. That said, all of this did better than my Gilgamesh, which again had 41,000 troops remaining for him. So I'd said, okay, let's see how Gilgamesh does. And he did terribly. So if you have Max Gilgamesh, I'm sorry, you should probably take him to the bank and see if you could get a refund because you made the same mistake that I did. So that's okay. But overall, from this testing, I am seeing Zhuge as being an absolute unit. And here I maxed him. And I ran Nebu Zhuge here, and there were 22,000 cavalry troops left. Which to me, I think this is a really good trade. Especially considering the fact that Zhuge, again, is a major AoE commander, and so is Nebu. I'd also add that I am not a cavalry civ, and I believe that CMEP is. So if you take a look at his stats there, you can see that it's not exactly a fair fight. There's my archer attack, defense, and health, and there's his cavalry attack, defense, and health. So overall, I was really, really pleased with this testing, and it gets better. So again, I said, let's see how Gilgamesh does. This time I maxed Zhuge, so I said Gilgamesh is probably a better primary than Nebu, and in this particular instance, he was. But I would still go with Nebu over Gilgamesh. I think Nebu's a little bit less likely to get targeted. So, to answer the original question, is Zhuge viable as 5511 and 5551? Yes. All of my testing shows that Zhuge is totally viable at those levels. My recommendation is if you're not going to max him, take him to 5551 because he's going to be better than your YSG, at least in that situation. He's probably also going to be better than Nebu or Gilgamesh or most of the other archer commanders that are out there, which means that I would put Zhuge at least as an S tier commander. Now, if you max him, he's, spectacular, but we already did that testing. That said, I was curious. No one has shown me any testings of Zhuge with unmaxed commanders or with some strange pairings, and so we did a couple of those. We did Zhuge Mehmed, which did better than my Gilgamesh Nebu, which astonishes me, and it actually did fairly well. And then we did Zhuge YSG with my existing YSG, and I could show you guys where my YSG skills are. I only have single relic, and he's not maxed, and he did phenomenally as well. Still better than my Gilgamesh. So overall, Zhuge adds power to any march that you are throwing in the field, which is why my recommendation is even if you're not an archer primary, you have Zhuge in your lineup, because if you have one archer march, it should have Zhuge in it. So here's where things get spicy. I don't have Max Boudica, but I thought, Why not? Let's test and see how it works. And for the first time in this entire testing, my March beat his. And that blows my mind. This is a 5.511 Boudica. I've since gotten her to 5.551, but this was the only March that beat the Nevsky Joan. And I would remind you, my Nevsky Joan didn't beat his, which means that Zhuge is such an absolute monster that you should max him in just about any situation. I hope that this answers all of your questions. If you guys haven't already, do hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner. Hit the bell so you get notified when new episodes come out. I will also do a shameless plug here. All of these reports that you may be wanting to see right now are going to be linked in the Discord in reports section. So be sure to join the Discord channel and check that out if you want to see them for yourself.